Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. While the Conference USA is unlikely to produce any national contenders, the conference itself is very competitive and every year is full of surprises. So today, guys, we are breaking down our Conference USA predictions, our projected Conference USA standings for the 2021 college football season. Before we get started, as always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. Of course, that includes our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We are under a week away, less than a week away from our first picks being released on our website. So make sure you don't miss out on that. And don't miss out on PrizePicks either. Use our promo code Gridiron and our link down in the description below to go sign up for that today. So let's take a look at the Conference USA, guys. Again, a conference, I should say, that is, again, filled with tons of competition where both divisions, to me, are relatively wide open. Yes, each has their favorites, but it could go either way. And every year we seem to see that in the Conference USA. We'll start over in the East, where at the top of the standings, at the top of the East, we have Marshall, the Thundering Herd. We have them at 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. And keep in mind, guys, Marshall was a good team last year. They started the season very, very strong, fizzled out at the end of the year, losing their final 3 games, including the Conference USA Championship game to UAB. They went 7-3, rose as high as to the top 15 last year, and now they have a new head coach in Charles Huff. Doc Holliday got the boot, and it's understandable. Marshall's gotten close multiple times, couldn't really break through and keep winning those Conference USA titles. It felt like the program was just kind of stagnant. Huff comes in, a Nick Saban product, young, energetic, going to bring a new vibe and energy to Marshall. And he has the team to win the division and win the conference this year. Grant Wells back at quarterback. If he can play like he did in the first half of the season last year, Marshall will be fine because the offensive line is solid, the wide receivers are very solid, and their defense, guys, is always good. 8 starters back on that side of the ball from a unit that was first nationally in scoring, second nationally in total defense. Marshall, to me, is the team to beat in the East. Right below them, Western Kentucky, 7-5, also 6-2. So that game, when Marshall plays Western Kentucky, that's going to be a big deal. But Marshall gets to host that game. When you look at Western Kentucky, guys, a lot of key pieces are gone, but a lot of key pieces transfer in. They have a new offensive coordinator in Zach Kitley. He comes in from Houston Baptist out of the FCS. Because of that, he brings with him loads of talent from Houston Baptist. Bailey Zappi, some of his top wide receivers, all come over from Houston Baptist. And those players combined on offense were averaging 547.5 yards per game in the 4 games Houston Baptist played last year, and 3 of those, we should mention, were played against FBS opponents. They nearly upset Texas Tech last year. Add in, they get Adam Cofield at running back from North Dakota State. Factor in their defense is always very solid, especially in terms of pressuring the quarterback. And I believe that Tyson Helton's squad bounces back in a big way. It was a disappointing 2020 for Western Kentucky. We've got them at 7-5, of course, going to a solid bowl game. Of course, the schedule, though, is difficult. Texas San Antonio, at Marshall, at Army, Indiana, Michigan State, guys like that. But I believe the Hilltoppers are due for a big bounce-back year. Underneath them, Willie Taggart's Florida Atlantic Owls. They went 5-4 last year, but returned 21 starters in 2021. The biggest thing that is really breaking Florida Atlantic right now, preventing them from maybe being higher in these standings, maybe even winning the East, is quarterback play. They need consistent quarterback play, and they think they found their guy in Michael Johnson transferring in from Penn State. If he can live up to the hype, Florida Atlantic can live up to the lofty expectations. We know the run game is always very solid for the Owls. They returned 10 starters on defense, one that was 16th nationally against the pass last year. And I believe Willie Taggart's squad, they weren't bad last year. 5-4, went to a bowl game, not bad. But I believe they are actually East contenders this year. 5-3 in conference play, only 1 game separating them from Marshall and Western Kentucky. And it should be noted that the Owls host Marshall, but do travel to UAB and do travel to Western Kentucky. Both those, if they were to result in losses, could be brutal to the Owls' conference title hopes. Underneath them, Charlotte, the 49ers, 6-6. Will Healy doing a fantastic job with this program, guys. And, a lot of people aren't too high on Charlotte this year. A lot of people don't know a whole lot about Charlotte this year, but I'm telling you, the guy you need to know for them is their quarterback, Chris Reynolds. dangerous dual-threat quarterback that is this Charlotte offense. If he stays healthy and can kind of have a bounce-back year after a mediocre 2020, Charlotte will go bowling. We believe they will do that. They're going to be competitive week in and week out. They get to host Florida Atlantic. They get to host Rice. They get to host Marshall. And we'll talk about Rice in a second. Not normally a Conference USA contender, but they are this year. And they return 5 starters on defense with tons of transfers in. So I believe Will Healy's squad has the potential to get back to the postseason. The final 3 in the East, we don't have going bowling. We have them all falling short. I think Middle Tennessee is probably the most shocking for some. I think a lot of people were surprised when they see the Blue Raiders going 5-7. But look, Asher O'Hara, their star quarterback, is gone. He's out of there. Bailey Hockman from North Carolina State is in. So they have an experienced Power 5 quarterback under center. That's huge. 10 starters are back on offense. 10 starters are back on defense. But the problem is the defense wasn't much to brag about last year. They allowed 35.4 points per game. And the schedule for Middle Tennessee is just brutal. At Texas San Antonio, at Liberty, at Western Kentucky, at Florida Atlantic. I mean, and that's just to name a few of their games. I just don't think the Blue Raiders, after a disappointing 2020, have all the pieces to have a big bounce-back year. I think best case scenario is 6-6, but we have them falling just short. Rounding out the East, guys, I don't think it's much. We don't have to explain much about Florida International and Old Dominion. Florida International, I believe this is Butch Davis's last year with the Panthers. I think a lot of people thought that would be the case last year, and it wasn't. But this one has to be. If he went winless last year, 0-5, and follows that up with a 3-9 season in 2021, if he doesn't quit on his own terms, Florida International might get rid of him, period. The offense has major quarterback questions, kind of like Florida Atlantic, but the Owls are much well put together. The defense does return 9 starters. They had the 15th ranked pass defense last year, but the defense is going to get tired if the offense can't get anything going. And with a tough schedule, including road games at Florida Atlantic, Marshall, and Southern Miss, I just don't think the Panthers are going to be very competitive. I think they're going to struggle mightily, 3-9. Same for Old Dominion. They didn't play last year. They were one of the teams that opted out. The Monarchs went 1-11 in 2019, the last time they played a game. They have a brand new head coach in Ricky Rain. They only returned 7 starters from that 2019 squad. It's going to be some growing pains for a brand new head coach, especially considering everything they've gone through. When you don't play football for over a year, don't expect them to come in and be immediately competitive. That's just not going to happen. It's Old Dominion rounding it out 0-8 in conference, and that is your East Division. In the West, to me, it's a little bit more competitive. Obviously, there are 3 teams in the East that can contend for the top spot: Marshall, Western Kentucky, Florida Atlantic. Same can be said in the West with UAB, Texas San Antonio, and Louisiana Tech. All of those 3 teams can contend for that top spot. But we have to go with UAB here. How can you not pick the Blazers? They are maybe the best team in the conference. They won the conference last year. They have experienced quarterbacks across the board. If it's not Tyler Johnston, they have plenty of depth and experience behind him. They have an elite defense that ranked 7th nationally last year, 16 starters back total. Bill Clark has done a phenomenal job with UAB. Ever since they brought this football program back, he has done a phenomenal job of building them back up to the point where they don't lose at home, and the expectations now are get to a bowl game, and expectations now are get to the championship game and win it, which he has done a handful of times. We believe the Blazers go 9-3, only lose 1 conference game. And they do have a tough schedule, guys. Liberty, Florida Atlantic, Louisiana Tech, at Marshall, at Texas San Antonio. And that game against the Roadrunners very well could determine who wins the West Division. When you look at the Roadrunners, though, guys, we have them in a tie with UAB. So you can kind of piece together what we have going on in that game. But 9-3, 7-1 for the Roadrunners. This is an elite team. They surprised a lot of people last year in Jeff Traylor's first year. No one thought that they would go bowling, let alone win 7 games. Held their own against Louisiana in their bowl game. But they returned 21 starters. They have a dual-threat quarterback in Frank Harris. They have one of the best running backs in the Conference USA. I put him up there as one of the better running backs in the nation. And Sincere McCormick. They average 215.4 rushing yards per game. All 11 of their starters are back on defense. This is a team that absolutely could upset Illinois in their first game. A team that could upset UAB when the Roadrunners host the Blazers. This is a team that absolutely is going to go bowling, and do not be surprised at all if they dethrone UAB to clinch the West Crown. So I love Jeff Traylor. I love this team. I love the experience. They're a lot of fun to watch. Right below them, Skip Holtz in Louisiana Tech. We have them at 7-5, but as you can see, just 1 game behind UAB and UTSA. So again, some things go the Bulldogs' way, and they could be in the championship game. They went 5-5 last year, guys, and kind of similar to some teams we've already talked about. It's the quarterback play that is holding Louisiana Tech back. The Bulldogs' defense wasn't anything to brag about last year, but they returned 10 starters on that side of the ball this year, and I think they improved mightily there. If they can find some quarterback consistency, if they can keep their guys healthy and find a guy to actually run the entire offense and run it all season long, the Bulldogs could very well win 8 or 9 games and win the division, no doubt in my mind, especially with a favorable schedule. The schedule is extremely favorable. I would say the game at UAB is probably their toughest conference game of the year. Obviously, we have them dropping one more. We have them losing to UAB and obviously one more game, but the non-conference is what's bringing this record down. The majority of their losses aren't going to come in conference play. It's very favorable, and I think Skip Holtz takes advantage of that. Right under Louisiana Tech, we have Rice, and I think that's going to be a surprise for a lot of people. I think that'll be a surprise for a lot of people. But let's take a look at what Rice did last year. They went 2-3. 2 of the 3 losses were by 1 possession. So Rice began to not only win a few games within the conference, but were competitive in the conference and showed some fight that we haven't seen in a long, long time from the Owls. Mike Bloomgren, I think, is doing a solid job. He came out and said, I thought we were a bowl team last year. Had we played a full season, I feel like we would have gone to a bowl game. And now they've added Luke McCaffrey in at quarterback. That name sounds familiar. It's because he was a pretty highly touted recruit, and everybody had high expectations for him, but never did anything. But now he's finally settled in at Rice and gives the Owls some quarterback maybe consistency and a boost on offense. 6 starters are back on that side of the ball alongside him. 8 starters are back on defense, a defense that ranked 12th in scoring, defense that ranked 23rd nationally. Rice, I think, is right on the border of cracking through and breaking through to get to a bowl game. 4-4 in conference, but fall 1 game short of getting to the postseason. But I believe in this Rice team, guys. That's something that I haven't been able to say for a very, very long time. Underneath them is Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles, 5-7, 3-5 in conference play. They are dealing with a new head coach in Will Hall. He was the offensive coordinator at Tulane, is now the head coach down in Hattiesburg. 10 starters back on defense. 10 starters back on defense, not too bad. And really the biggest question for Southern Miss is, as for many of these teams, quarterback play. As a lot of analysts out there are saying, Southern Miss is a quarterback away, a good quarterback away from winning this division, and it wouldn't even be close. Well, they've got Frank Gore Jr. at running back. They've got Trey Lowe at quarterback. The question is, can he live up to the hype, and can he engineer this offense that Will Hall wants to run, and something that Will Hall did very well at with Tulane? Can he engineer it to the point where Southern Miss gets to a bowl game? I don't think a division crown is in sight. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but a bowl game is feasible. All the pieces are there for it. It just comes down to quarterback play. But it should be mentioned they have a difficult schedule, too, at South Alabama, at Texas San Antonio, at Louisiana Tech, just to name a few. Rounding out the West, North Texas and UTEP. The Mean Green, a lot of people are going to disagree with that, having them at 3-9. I get that. But here's the thing. The Mean Green ranked first in the Conference USA in every single offensive category. They ranked last in the Conference USA in every single defensive category. So, look, if you can't play any defense in the Conference USA, I really don't think you're going to win any games here. Many games. I know that conference is not known for their defense, but you can't just bank on your offense winning the games for you, just solely through the air and dropping 60 points and your opponent's dropping 59. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Seth Luttrell's team is going to be ready for this season, especially with the gauntlet of a schedule, guys. At SMU, at Louisiana Tech, at Missouri, Marshall, Liberty, at Southern Miss, Texas San Antonio. So if you like North Texas, that's fine, but you can't tell me that they're going to be favored in many of these games. The schedule to me is just too brutal. And after a rough year last year, I think they're in for another one in 2021. And the same can be said for UTEP, who we have rounding out the West. 3-5 last year, which was good for the Miners. 3-5 last year is a good year for UTEP. And I could see them maybe improving on that, maybe getting to 4 or 5 wins this year. But it should be noted that last year, despite winning 3 games, none of them were in the Conference USA. None of them were in the Conference USA. So I think this year alone, getting 1 conference win, that's a big boost. That's a major milestone for the Miners. We think they do get that. They're good enough to steal 1, but nowhere near to the point of contending for bowl eligibility or really competing week in and week out in the conference. 3-9, 1-7, and that rounds out the West. The championship is going to be another rematch, Marshall versus UAB. Last year, UAB won 22-13, and that was at Marshall. They beat the Thundering Herd by 9 on their own turf. Fantastic defensive performance from UAB. Marshall could not get anything going offensively. Their offense was electric for the first part of the season. Again, like we said, crashed and burned at the end of the year. Well, now the game, based on the conference standings, is going to be at UAB. The Blazers are going to have a better conference record than Marshall. So the Thundering Herd now have to travel to Birmingham. As we mentioned, a place where UAB rarely loses. Bill Clark has made it a very, very difficult place to play, at least for its Conference USA opponents. And like we mentioned earlier, how could you pick against UAB to not win the West? How can you pick against UAB to not win the conference as a whole? We're going with the Blazers here. I think their defense is still too tough. I think Marshall's offense sputters again. Grant Wells maybe has some deja vu. And UAB wins yet another Conference USA title. And Bill Clark, take your pick, man, because you're going to be getting a Power 5 job very, very soon. An unbelievable coaching job over these last 5-6 years that he's done with his UAB program. If that, I mean, it's truly unbelievable the turnaround for UAB. And they're going to clinch another conference title. It's unreal. But that wraps up the Conference USA, guys. That wraps up another Group of 5 conference for us here. We've got UAB winning this conference yet again. Leave your comments down below. We want to hear from you. Who do you have doing better? Who do you have doing worse? Who do you have winning the Conference USA? We only have one more Group of 5 conference to go, then playoff predictions, and then boom, the season starts. So we are very, very excited for all of that, and we can't wait to have you guys along with us the whole ride. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Also, make sure to check out everything down in the description below. That includes the expert picks on our website, thegridironexpert.com. That includes the PrizePicks. Make sure to use our promo code and link down in the description to sign up for all of that today. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.